After a demoralizing Game 2 defeat at the hands of DK, it seemed like KT was down and out. Outdrafted, outmacroed, and outplayed, DK was coming off hot from their performance against Bro, and took KT down 2-0 to bring the series to match point. Today we're going to break down how KT was able to bring back the series and ultimately pull off a reverse sweep in the playoffs on the road to MSI. After a convincing 3-0 victory against Bro the day before, DK was facing their next opponent in KT Rolster. Going into this matchup, KT Rolster had won the majority of sets against DK since 2025. And DK was looking to get revenge against KT Rolster and knock them out from making MSI. When we look at the analyst predictions, nobody was expecting DK to get a 3-0. In fact, most analysts were predicting KT to win or the series to end up being a 5-game series. This sentiment began to change after games 1 and 2, where Lucid was getting huge leads through his aggressive ganking and setting up the bot lane for success, leading to games 1 and 2 having huge leads that KT could not come back from. It all started at the 9-minute mark as Cuz tried to lane gank for KT Rolster. DK knew that this was happening and they brought Lucid down to protect the bot lane. Through the power of Ashe and Seraphine, they were able to isolate the Nautilus and pick him off. This led to first blood for the Wukong. Off of that play, Smash and Korea were able to push in aiming, and he had no choice but to respond to the wave here. Effort actually fumbled and tried to go for a play, but the Jhin was not able to help him out as he was clearing the wave. Here we see the power of Ashe and Seraphine as Ashe slow allows Seraphine to stun, and followed by the ult, they were able to kill the Nautilus. The next big moment happened at the 15-minute mark as both teams tried to fight for Herald. Showmaker was cut off and killed thanks to a great ultimate from the Rumble. At this point, the fight looked really good in favor of KT, but they started making a mistake in that instead of pushing together towards the top side to try to exit the fight, they got split up as the victor here gets separated from the rest of his team and picked off. As you can see, the Ashe is able to free fire the whole time, and since nobody can get to her, she's able to wipe out the rest of the team. Lucid then uses the Rift Herald that he just got to break down the tower and kill the Jhin. At this point, KT is trying everything they can to take out the Ashe as Effort tries to look for a flank and Rumble ults on top of the Ashe. From safety, Ashe is able to fire out an arrow which hits the Rumble, and Korea hits a beautiful Seraphine ultimate followed up by Showmaker's Shockwave to finish off the rest of the fight. Off this fight, DK is able to take Baron and build up a 14,000 gold lead, which they then use to finish off the game at 23 minutes. In high-stakes series, where elimination means missing out on MSI, the first game can often dictate how the rest of the series will go. We saw this in the first series between DK and Bro, as Bro almost won game 1, but they threw the game and they were never able to recover for the rest of the series. Seeing as they got demolished in the first game, KT's mental was really fragile going into game 2. Lucid continues his aggression in game 2 as he takes the first 3 camps and immediately goes to the mid lane to give Ryze first blood. To add insult to injury, Lucid then comes back at the 4-minute and 30 mark and ganks once again, getting another kill. He even throws up the thumbs up just to tilt BDD. As if the game can't get any worse at this point, KT tried to make a play onto the Shen, but Mel is able to save him using her repel. At this point, KT are pretty tilted and they start overextending and playing recklessly. We can see Cuz try to engage on the Mel to try to kill her, but then he gets taunted by the Shen. He then tries to back off a little bit before flashing back in and getting snared by the Mel and dying. Jorva then chases off the Caitlyn and finishes her off. At this point, the game is quickly slipping out of KT's control as they're sitting 8,000 gold down and they're going for any play possible to try to get back into the game. They take an awful fight in the top lane, which results in Mel getting a triple kill. At the same time, you can see Ryze is pushing in the bot wave. So this isn't even a full 5v5, it's a 4v5 where KT just get routed and killed. Jarvan then engages on the Caitlyn and they pick her off, while at the same time Mel and Shen team up together to take out the Taliyah. Shen attempts to slow down the game by setting up around Baron and taking it. DK responds to this by taking the Hextech Dragon Soul. The Dragon Soul then allows DK to go for the Elder Soul 5 minutes later. At this point, they're sitting on an 8,000 gold lead, and KT has no choice but to try to run away, with Effort sacrificing his life so that K'Sante and Caitlyn can get away. At this point, the series is looking great for DK. They're about to be 2-0 up, with Lucid completely popping off 2 games in a row, and with DK winning by beating down BDD, the best player on KT. On the other hand, KT is extremely tilted at this point. Nothing has gone their way, and they still have one more game to play to try to stay in this tournament. Game 3 starts off in a very similar way to Game 2, as Lucid takes 3 camps in the top side and immediately heads top lane to get a gank off. Renekton is caught on the wrong side of the map and desperately tries to get back to his own side. Skarner pins him to the wall and they get first blood. For the first time in the series, Cuz finally shows signs of life as he comes top lane and helps Renekton get a kill back. He's able to land the fear on the Gnar, and they're able to pick him off. Cuz is then able to leverage his lead into a gank in the bot lane. Aiming an Emperor pushing the wave so that Nocturne is able to hit his ultimate and go right in. Nocturne is then able to get a kill for himself and one for the Yunara. The Lulu Nocturne combo ends up being great for KT as they're able to utilize it to win multiple skirmishes throughout the game. In this fight right here, Lulu ults the Nocturne, which allows him to knock up the LeBlanc. At the same time, Renekton takes a teleport, which splits up the rest of DK. This then allows KT to take the tower and kill the LeBlanc. After getting 3 dragons and pushing in the bot side, KT puts their attention to the top side. They end up overstaying, however, and they give DK an opportunity to come back into the game. Despite not having to fight and being 8,000 gold up, KT take this fight, trying to limit test and get punished for it. Lucian ends up getting a triple kill here, with Gnar getting the final kill to close out this fight. Because DK won the last fight, they were able to recall and set up around the dragon before KT could get there. This forced KT into an undesirable position as they had to come in and steal the dragon. Lucid then lands a great impale, followed by a great Gnar ultimate, which ends up killing the bot side of KT. At this point, it's looking pretty good for DK, until Renekton and Nocturne are able to jump in and get a double kill. BDD then cleans up the rest of the fight on the Zoe, salvaging the team fight. The game then culminates at the 38-minute mark as KT rushes down mid lane and engages in a fight against DK. At this point, the Yunara is extremely fed and is able to make quick work of DK, ending in a pentakill. Despite starting off the series getting destroyed back to back, KT is able to show great resilience in Game 3 and bring it to a Game 4. Game 4 started off pretty slow as DK was looking to regain their footing in this series and KT was trying to avoid any mistakes. This all came to a head at the 12th minute mark when KT was able to take the dragon, but they ended up dropping 4 people and only getting 2 kills back. Thanks to their draft, DK is able to continuously find picks across the map. Pantheon is able to engage and then disengage using his E, and thanks to the Bard he's able to get to safety. DK is able to do this over and over and over, amassing a substantial gold lead which allows them to take the dragon. This allows DK to keep building on their lead, and before long, they're sitting on a 6,000 gold lead. By the 32nd minute mark, DK has amassed almost a 9,000 gold lead. This allows them to not only win this fight, but to take the Baron and the Dragon Soul right after. At this point, there's no way the game can be thrown, right? At the 41-minute mark, despite being up 10,000 gold, Siwoo gets caught out by BDD and Cuz and ends up dying. This pick could not have come at a worse time for DK, as it allows KT to zone them from the dragon and take a fight. Pantheon loses his GA and gets killed. At this point, DK has no jungler to take the dragon. KT is able to zone them off, and despite Karma dying to the Aurora, they're able to take the dragon. Siwoo just came back, but is unable to make a difference in this fight as he's forced to Sonya's right away. Despite being down over 10,000 gold and only having one dragon up until this point, KT is able to take the Elder Dragon and extend the game for an additional few minutes. As KT is looking for an angle into the Baron Pit, they get engaged on by Pantheon and the Bard. At this point, they still have the Elder Dragon and are able to win the next fight against DK. Despite being down 11,000 gold, 3 dragons, and a Baron, KT is able to hold on thanks to Sivir's wave clear and find an opening in the bot lane that allows them to take the dragon and win the game. In Game 5, both teams banned a bunch of AD carries, which allowed KT to pull the Blitzcrank. This pick allows Cuz to gank bot side after full clearing, which leads to him securing first blood. Cuz looks to keep the momentum going by making plays on the bot side. Unfortunately, he gets clipped by the Maokai ult, and just as he's about to die, he's able to prolong his death longer than anybody expected thanks to the Sundered Sky. He even gets a kill in return, which allows Blitzcrank to step back in and go for a hook, and then Corki's able to clean up. At around the 25-minute mark, the game is pretty even in terms of gold, and both teams are trying their best not to throw the game. But KT is put in an unfavorable position as they're forced to fight so that DK doesn't take the dragon. DK ends up winning the fight and kills the rest of KT. This then allows them to take the Baron and break open the game. Despite being up 5,000 gold, DK decides to once again flip the objective. KT is able to split up DK and wedge themselves in the middle of the fight. Maokai engages with the ultimate, but ultimately nothing comes out of it. The turning point comes when Ambessa gets caught out thanks to the Asir shuffle and killed. Showmaker tries to make up the fight by engaging, but is killed as well. Poppy then gets a crazy steal onto the Elder Dragon, which allows them to clean up the rest of the fight. Against all odds, being down 0-2 against DK, and being down in gold and objectives for 4 out of the 5 games, KT is able to reverse sweep DK and knock them out of Road to MSI. After winning their series, KT will now play Gen G in the next round. Going into this round, as much as I like KT, I don't think they'll be able to overcome Gen G. The reason why I say that is because if we look at this series for an example, KT Roaster had lost the early game of almost every single game this series. Even in that 5th series, when they got first blood, they were still down in objectives and down in gold. I don't think a team like Gen G will give KT the room that they need to come back from losing the early game. I think DK, even though they had great early games, didn't really do much in the mid to late game, which led to them getting picked off or giving up objectives that let KT come back into the series. I think Genji is a much more polished team and they make less mistakes and they're able to carry their leads, no matter how small they are, into victories. So going into this next series, I think Genji will win 3-0 or maybe 3-1. I think the most exciting series this weekend will definitely be the series between T1 and HLE. Both teams look really good and ended off the season with a really strong finish. I think ultimately HLE will take the series, but it will be a close 3-2 fight, and T1 definitely has the potential to win the series themselves. The winner of the Hanwha Life and T1 series will qualify for EWC as the first seed and qualify for one out of the two spots at MSI. The loser will then have to face off against the winner of Genji and KT for the last spot at MSI.